How much of yourself would you give up to be successful? For me, it started with the little things of lowering the bass in my voice, staying quiet, not sticking out, those unspoken rules that we're told as youngsters to succeed in the workplace. I even dropped my middle Nigerian name to assimilate, just Lawrence Tijjani. So a couple of weeks ago, I was invited to talk at the Black Leadership Conference. I did the keynote provocation in the afternoon, and the theme of my talk was the legacy we leave behind. And I've been thinking about that for some time, so it was fitting, because after I had Zeke, I started to think about what is it that I actually want to leave behind for him. And I guess that goes into kind of my purpose and how I found that of starting up Just a Guy. I want to leave a world where my son is judged on his talents and his ability and not based on his race. And to do that, I've got to speak up, and I had to find my voice over the last couple of years and challenge the status quo. So I did this, and I'm really happy to share this with you. Please do have a watch. Let me know what you think in the comments about my talk. And yep, there we go. Right, good afternoon, everyone. Oh, thank you. Normally I don't get that back. Like Robin said, some of you may have seen me around, ushering you a bit, telling you missed your workshop. Yeah. And I've also hosted a panel today, but I'm a man of many talents. Yeah, I'm bigging up myself, own it. But seriously, when Stella asked me to do this, I was truly humbled, because the Black Leadership Group came in a point in my life where I didn't really know who I was. And I'm going to go into that journey. So this talk is about the legacy we leave behind, because that's what it's about ultimately. It's not about what we do in the moment. It's about what we create, what we build, and more importantly, what do we pass on? Throughout this talk, I'm hoping to take you on a journey, my own personal one, but one that speaks to the world that we're in at the moment. But before we get into that, let's go to the beginning. Oh, sorry, I need to do something. Hi, Mum. Hi. They're watching the stream. So, yes, believe it or not, that's Lawrence Tijjani when I had hair. Look at that face, full of joy, the carefree expression. At this age, I had no concept of racism. I had no idea that the world would see me differently because of the color of my skin. And that's how it should be. Children should be carefree, just to exist, to learn, to fail, to dream, without barriers being placed on them. But at some point, something shifts. As we get older, we start to realize this world isn't built for me. Not everyone is seen in the same way. And for me, that moment came when I realized the world would judge me on the color of my skin. It's a painful realization that many of us have faced. But it's just not my story. It's about something bigger. Because when we recognize the realities of the world that we live in, we have a choice. Do we accept things the way they are? Or do we do something about it? That's why I want to ask you 3 questions today. How can I actively create spaces for others? What roles are you playing in challenging systemic barriers and amplifying voices? How do you want to leave the world a better place for the next generation? And I'm going to let you sit in that for a minute.
And let me be clear, these are not abstract questions. They require us to look at the way we show up, the choices we make, the actions we take. As I share my journey, I want you to think about your own. What role are you going to play in changing the world? So, when you realize the world doesn't see you the same as others, you start to make adjustments. We heard it on the panel. Sometimes they are small, sometimes they are significant, but they all have a cost. I learned to assimilate. I thought, this is what I needed to do to survive. Growing up in Bermondsey, I faced racism. But I'm not talking just about the obvious racism, the idiot across the road. I'm talking about that type of racism you can't put your finger on. And you're like looking, someone says something, and you're looking and you're going, did anyone else hear that? Do they get that? That's the racism that is hard to point out. The kind that follows you into the classroom or the workplace. In professional spaces, I learned the unspoken rules. Stay quiet. Don't draw attention to yourself. Don't challenge because they don't want to see me as an angry black man. It used to frustrate me when I would question something and people would tell me to calm down. I'm like, I ain't vexed. I just don't agree with you. That's what I was talking about. So I didn't challenge. Fit in. I shared an experience of when someone came up to me and gave me the bro, kind of like, hey, how you doing? In that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, I've broken character. Will they know? How do I go back? I saw people that looked like me in the workplace that were loud, boisterous, full of life, but in the meeting room, wouldn't say anything. And they had fantastic ideas. Even my own name was something that was adjusted. As Sasha said earlier, it was Lawrence Tijjani. My mum was told this, it will help him. When CVs come across desks, it would help. And that was my first kind of battle of who is Nigerian Lawrence and who is UK-born Lawrence. How do they measure together? Can they coexist in the same space? I would even drop my middle name, Oluwadare. I even shortened Oluwadare to Dare. They'll say, how do you say your name? I say, it's Dare. Not Dare. So, I introduced myself as Lawrence Tijjani. It's only fitting that I do a bit of a Jay-Z. Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Lawrence Oluwadare Tijjani. And I've put my middle name in bold because my mum gave me that name. And that name has power. It means God is always by your side. And how dare I try to drop that? Assimilation can only take you so far. Eventually, you reach a point, like I mentioned earlier. Who am I truly? Who is Lawrence Oluwadare Tijjani? For that moment, it came in my late 30s. After years of trying to navigate different spaces, I started to question what I had truly left behind. I realized I wasn't embracing either. I thought they lived in different rooms. I was always towing the line. In my black circles, it was, oh, you're very well spoken, aren't you? In my professional circles, I used to second guess myself before I would say anything, and the conversation had already moved on. I had to find a balance of respecting my elders in the workplace, because where I come, you don't challenge your elders back. How do I navigate this world? I want to speak up, tell my story, tell my thoughts, my dreams. Always battling with myself. And as I said, the Black Leadership Group came at a right time. I started to meet people that challenged my thinking. And she's not here today, and I hope she is watching the stream, is Rosemary Campbell-Stevens. She really allowed me to find who Lawrence was and asking those questions. And one question I asked myself, and Amjad touched on this in his talk, and he hasn't seen this, by the way, is just because I am black, does that mean I'm automatically anti-racist? And that question cut deep. Because I'm fast forwarding Lawrence in his 30s. Lawrence who's gone through hardship. Lawrence has had to navigate these roads. What am I doing for the next generation? How am I walking through that door and not shutting that door, but actually wedging that door open, because more people can walk through? And I'll be honest, I wasn't doing that. I wasn't speaking up, because on the previous slide, I was just fitting in. Don't challenge, stay quiet, and no trouble will come your way. Okay, random, isn't it? Right. You're thinking random. Like, why has this guy got Love is Blind? Like, how many people have heard of Love is Blind? Yeah, okay, in general. Okay, hey, look, we listen and we don't judge, okay? Put your hand up, we're proud, that's what you watch, okay? Thank you, right? So, I like to watch trash TV with my wife. I switch off, we laugh about it, we get into some debates and go, oh, he's not a good one, is he? But for those of you who haven't seen it, the premise is simple. Contestants date, and they get engaged without ever seeing each other until they actually pop the question and they say yes. I can't believe I'm going to say this. It's all about deep conversations. Forming connections, discovering discovering people really beyond their appearance. But in one episode, one conversation that really stands out. What are your thoughts on Black Lives Matters? So she had asked her fiancé this. His response: I'm kind of ignorant towards that stuff. She gave him space to elaborate. He went on to say, I'm not one way or another. This guy's not a bad guy. Remember? I'm not one way or another. And then he said, which made me go, I just kind of keep out of that stuff. Let's just pause there for a moment. That was a missed opportunity. It was a choice to disengage, to stay neutral. And right there is the problem. Because neutrality can be dangerous and is dangerous. Allyship isn't choosing when you care. It's about showing up, even when it's uncomfortable. Because in reality, silence isn't neutral. It maintains the status quo. How often do you hear people say, that's not my fight? I stay out of it. By choosing not to engage, is choosing to stay on the sidelines. You're making a choice either way. And someone else said it. Allyship is not a title. I think it was on a panel. It is not a title. It is a daily practice. It's taking actions in the moments that matter. Not just when it's a trend, when it's cool, when everyone's doing it and it looks good. It's doing it when it's hard. So I want you to ask yourself, where do you stand in the moments that count? Are you waiting for permission to speak up? Are you an ally when it's easy? Or are you someone who's willing to challenge, to advocate, to speak people's names in rooms that they're not in? And that is a key thing. Speaking people's names that they're not in rooms that they're not in. Even when it's uncomfortable. So what does active allyship look like? You see you've got Beth there in this picture. But I want to talk about the three gentlemen in the back. Like, they're my brothers from another mother. And we have a running joke that we look quite similar. We share, we have no hair. But on a serious note, Dean and Ben came around at a time where I had left teaching. I taught for 11 years, and I left teaching because of health. Wasn't quite sure what to do, where I was going, but I came across these guys, and they saw talent in me that probably at the time I didn't see. They supported me in starting to become an EdTech trainer. They were like, no, you can do this. And I was like, me? They're like, no, you can do it. How do you feel about coming to a session on one of these days and delivering a talk? They were empowering me. They were letting my voice be heard. They didn't only stop then. Remember, I'm working for a business they're working for. They were like, Lawrence, go and start your own company. I'm like, who, me? Because I was talking to them, and I kept on saying to them, I keep on coming to these events, walking into the room, and not seeing people like me on the stage. Or seeing people like me in the audience. Or even one time, I won't name the trust, I was at a trust. I was a keynote speaker, yes, little old me, keynote speaker. But I like to get involved with stuff. So I was packing the boxes away, putting them underneath the table, putting the laptops out. And I just had some rubbish on my hand. I got a tap on the shoulder. Excuse me, we're about to start our keynote. Do you mind leaving? Do you know the thing that I was vexed about? Do you know what I did? And I thought, where am I going? The keynote speaker is me. So when I got my senses, it was the CEO of the trust who was sitting at the front. So I walk up to the stage. And I could see him doing this. But what I didn't do was challenge him. Because at the end of the keynote, he said to me, that was fantastic, really great knowledge. And he said, I'm sorry about earlier. I missed a moment there to let him sit and him being uncomfortable. I said, that's okay. I should have asked him, what exactly are you sorry about? And let's have that discussion. I said, never again. So these two gentlemen, it wasn't about words, it was about their actions. They kept on pushing me, asking me, have you done the paperwork yet? Have you started it up? I was like, but how am I going to do this? Don't worry, we're going to support you. You've got a network, you're good at what you do. They created real opportunities by saying to me, hey, come and do this training. Then they kept on pushing. They provided mentorship that led to impact. Because when I started my company, at the time, 3 years ago, I was the first black-owned PD partner in Europe and UK. And if it wasn't for these gentlemen saying they believe in me, might not have happened. And this is a key thing that I say, opening doors for others to walk through. We do it as a thing, if someone's walking behind you, you open a door. But how can we do that in our organizations as well? So at this point, we've talked about being neutral and why choosing to stay out isn't really neutral. But what does it actually look like to create spaces for others? How do we move beyond just being aware and to take an action? Well, here are 3 things that I think everyone can do in this room. Number 1, self-awareness. We all carry privileges and biases, whether we realize it or not. But being aware means acknowledging that, understanding the barriers and that others face, and recognizing that we have blind spots. Using power and influence. Far too often, I hear people say, I don't have that much power. I've just started a company. I'm just a middle person. Everyone's got power. The words that come out of your mouth, that is power. Use them. Amplify other people's voices. Help create opportunities. If you can't create them in your organization, I encourage all of you to become a mentor. Mentor a young person. That is creating opportunities. That is power. That is you signing up to any mentoring program and saying, you know what, I can give 12 hours out of my year to help the next generation. That is power. Building long-term change. Being an ally isn't just about reacting to injustices when it's in the headlines, when it's front. It's what happens when it's not front and in the news. Are you still an ally then? It's about embedding it into our daily actions, making inclusion part of the way we operate and move, not just something that is convenient. And too often, I see this. People have been given a space through the door. They've been given a seat at the table. But you know what I see when I see people at the seat at the table sometimes? They're not given the utensils to eat at that table. So if we are inviting people to that table, how are we ensuring they're given the best possibility to succeed? Don't just put me at the table and don't offer me no mentoring. It's not going to look great. So my question to you, what role are you playing? Are you making spaces for others? And this one's going to hurt. Or are you just occupying the spaces? So, this journey, the work I do, the non-profit I run, isn't just about me. I tell you sometimes, I get tired. I pick up a newspaper, WhatsApp group. I get tired. And actually, there is actually a saying for this. It's called the black fatigue. But like I said, it's not just about me. It's about this young boy right here at the beginning, whose world was flipped upside down when he went out into the working world. The one who didn't know the world could be so cruel. The one who hadn't yet realized barriers existed. Then it's about the people that came before me. The Black Leadership Group, Rosemary Campbell, my mum, my dad. Let's be clear, I am standing on their shoulders. Without them, I'm not on this stage. So I have to give acknowledgement to them. I can't say I'm tired, I can't keep going with what they had to endure. Come on, man. I've got to keep on going. I've got to take that baton and keep on passing it forward. It's my duty. But ultimately, it's for my son. That's what it's ultimately about. I look at him and I think I'm tired. I go again. Because I want to make sure my son grows up in a world that respects him for his mind, for what he is doing, but does not judge him by the color of his skin. And not just for him, for young people like Sasha, for the young people I work with. This is why I do what I do. This is my why. As I mentioned, this isn't just about today. It's not just about 8 hours of content. It's about what do we do when you leave this room. Far too often we go, oh, it was great content and everything. But I'm challenging you. What are you going to do today when you leave this room? So, back to the questions we started with. How are we actively creating spaces for others? What roles are you playing to challenge systemic barriers and amplifying voices? And finally, how do you want to leave the world a better place for the next generation? Because when we talk about legacy, we're not just talking about history, we're talking about what we do right now. And I'm just going to end on this quote that was in the program. Every generation leaves behind a legacy. What that legacy will be is determined by the people of that generation. The work we do today shapes the world we leave behind. So my question to you, what will be your legacy? My name's Lawrence Oluwadare Tijjani. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Lawrence with God by his side, Tijjani. How powerful. I mean, you can't argue with that, right? How powerful is that? Thank you, Lawrence.